and welcome back to the Finding Your Feet podcast, a podcast show dedicated to helping you get closer to your true authentic self by helping you find your feet in life.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. We are joined by a guest today, Emily Roberts. She is a content creator, she's a blogger, she's a podcaster, she's a mother, and she's also the co-founder of the podcast network, the Monday Network, that we've recently joined, that you have probably heard us bang on about loads recently. But we had her on the show today just to talk all about her big move. That's the name of her podcast, the Big Move Podcast, and it's inspired by bringing people the tools, the tips, the inspiration, and giving women the support they need to make big moves in their life, because she has moved to London from New York about 5 years ago, and it's been a whole journey for her of doing that, of completely moving different countries and all the challenges that comes with. She's navigated her way through, and now she shares that advice on her podcast and interviews so many amazing people. But we brought her on ours today to talk about her story, to share that great advice for you. So maybe if you've been thinking, I want to make a big move, this episode is going to inspire you. We also dive deep into things like therapy and how that's really impacted her life, and also just life as a mum and balancing working and being a mother, because we know we've got a lot of women that listen to our show that do have their own children, and we get asked questions about how to deal with mum guilt, how to balance like having self-care for yourself whilst also looking after your kid, and not running yourself into the ground, still giving yourself those moments and not feeling guilty about it, and also how to not actually lose your identity as a mum, because that is a problem as well that people talk to us about, just losing their sense of self when they become a mother, and everything just turns into doing things for the children. And obviously me and Abby are at the stage of our lives where we don't have our own children, so we always kind of struggle to answer this question in the best way because we can't come from experience on it. So it was amazing to have Em on the show today to ask her, and she shares some really great tips with you all. So I hope you enjoy this episode.
Yeah, she's so inspiring and just so lovely. She's a joy to talk to. And I'm really glad we did cover off some topics that we've never discussed before on the podcast. So it's a really fresh and new outlook, which I think you guys will all really enjoy. Okay, I'd just like to welcome the lovely Emily Roberts onto our show. We are really, really excited to get into this chat with you today. So thank you for being here with us.
Ladies, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
So we love to hear about everyone's journeys, the journey of transformation, their career changes. So if you could just first start by telling our listeners a bit about your career, the things you've worked on, and of course your amazing move from New York to London.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like the hardest question, by the way. Like, it's so fun to be on the other side of the mic. And when I ask guests this question, I'm like, dude, it's a lot of pressure, like summing up your background, but I'll try to keep it brief. So if you can tell by my accent, I am American. So I am full-time living in London. I moved here 4.5 years ago. So I guess to rewind and give you some background, I am originally from the US. I'm from the Northeast. That's where I went to college. I quickly moved to New York City after college, and that's where I was living and working for really the bulk of my professional career. So I worked at a number of different startups in the tech industry and digital media. So I was in account management and like relationship management roles, and I was working and I was hustling in New York and having a great time. I was single, I was dating, I was sort of juggling and doing all the things in my mid-20s. And, it's such an amazing city, I think I always say, for that period in your life. So at the time, again, I was in the tech industry. And so I was really craving something creative. I had always loved fashion and styling and beauty. And so I decided to start a blog, fashion and style blog, beauty, lifestyle, sort of just everything. And I launched it with my Instagram at the same time. Now, this was back in 2015 when all of this was really sort of just starting. Of course, you had like the OGs of the blogging space, but still it was pretty new. Micro influencers were really just becoming a thing, and Instagram was like really blowing up, obviously, at that time. So I would say about a year and a half into working on, I really call it my creative side hustle because I was still working full time. I guess a year and a half into things, I started to sort of see my following grow, and I started to work with brands both in like a gifting and a paid capacity, and going to events and networking and just really building that up on the side. And I could see that influencer marketing was really becoming this, this beast, this huge mode of marketing that, wasn't going anywhere. So I kept running both full time. I was working on, my blog. I called it the Lipstick Fever. And it's funny because I'm with you today and I'm wearing a bold red lip, which is not the norm on like a random Wednesday, but I just filmed some beauty content. So here we are, very, very fitting for today. The reason I chose that name was I feel like there's nothing better than like getting ready for a Saturday night and putting on a bold lip and just feeling confident. So it was really sort of like a medley of all of the things that I love, and confidence and female empowerment, just sort of all the things that I felt like I really wanted to represent with my blog. That was sort of where the name came from. I guess to flash forward to now. So the reason for moving to London, I met my now husband at the time in New York. We dated there and we moved over to London together for his job. So I've been here for almost 5 years now. And so that was a whole scary and crazy transition in itself. I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later. But then to give you a little bit of background on my podcast and sort of where that all stemmed from, my podcast is called The Big Move. And so it was really inspired by my move abroad. When I came over to London, I felt like, I was really in this, international hub, this melting pot. I was meeting women from virtually all over the world, from all walks of life, and like just these amazing backgrounds, and female entrepreneurs and other content creators and, experts in their field. And I just thought, like, I can't not get this going. Like, I can't not start a podcast to share their success stories. I get so much inspiration for my day-to-day from podcasts. Like, I even go back to sort of my New York days when I would commute up 6th Avenue to my full-time job, and I would be listening to the School of Greatness podcast. Shout out to Lewis Hose.
Yeah, love him.
And I really gravitated to podcasts like that would give me like a tangible tip or a piece of advice or something that would give me like a little pep in my step. I always have gone to podcasts for that reason. And so for me, sort of creating that here was a really like natural fruition of sort of everything that I had been doing as a content creator, working in tech, and then now working really hard on my podcast and sort of creating this, this brand around all of those things. And so I feel like that was not brief at all, but yeah, that's sort of like the premise behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sum up like your whole life journey in the podcast intros, but yeah, we love your podcast. And I think like the concept of it, of inspiring people, giving them the advice they need, the tips, the support that they might need to hear on navigating their own big moves, is something that like not a lot of podcasts cover. So yeah, we love your show. It's amazing. But you've always you seem to be, and obviously now you've founded the Monday Network, which we will talk about more in the chat today, but we've also like explained a lot about what it is to our listeners, so they are familiar with it. But you seem that you've always been like very career driven and like a go-getter. You like with starting your blog whilst as a side hustle, and start the podcast and all these things. Is that been something that you've always been like? Have you always been like that, or do you think you've evolved to become like that as you developed as a person, maybe like from listening to things like School of Greatness? Because I know he's super inspiring for helping you get up and go and create opportunities and stuff.
Yeah, I really have always been this way. If I look back at my childhood, I grew up in a beach town. My parents worked their entire life. I'm one of three. And I just feel like they set that example of like they were always working really hard. My dad was working all the time, full time as a salesperson in the wine distribution and alcohol distribution industry. And so he was just this like amazing relationship builder. And he really, I think, set that example, especially from like a business perspective from me. And then on the other side of it, my mom was always a nurse. She's had this amazing career, and she was always working when we were kids. She was working nights, so she could be around during the day. Yeah. And so I think, my parents set that example for me of just seeing them working when we were kids. And then, I was really motivated by that. And I always had jobs when I was in high school and college. I was always having summer jobs, working at the snack bar down at the beach, working in restaurants, just hustling hard. And then I remember even as a kid, like I had a lemonade stand on the corner, and like I would always want to like run inside and tell my mom like, hey, I made like $25 today, which like for selling a cup of lemonade at 25-50 cents, like that's actually kind of
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So I feel like I was always motivated in that way. And as well, I played sports my entire childhood. I was super active. I grew up by the beach. I played like, everything you can think of, basketball, soccer, softball. I loved it. I loved being competitive. I loved playing the game. And so I think that has really, I guess, sort of segued well into kind of what I'm doing now, and my professional background in ad tech, and just really working hard and hustling and juggling many things. And so I guess that's really where it all kind of stemmed from. It's bode well for working for myself freelance, because, and you ladies get this, like you've got to self motivate every single day. There is nobody else that is going to do that for you. Like you can absolutely have a day off and watch Netflix and chill, but like that's not going to move the needle. That's not going to help you grow or get you to where you need to be. So you really have to self motivate. And so I'm sort of thankful for that. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Have you got any tips for anyone that's on like how to get yourself self-motivated, or anything that you do when you're like in that like maybe so you can get yourselves in funks where you're like maybe
Yes.
full of self-doubt or whatever, and you're just feeling
Yeah.
like you're feeling run down, tired, and you don't have that that vibe that you normally have. Have you got any like tips for anyone that's like maybe works for themselves that's feeling like that, to help them like push out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be the first person to say, like, I have those days often. Like, I don't feel amazing every day. I don't feel motivated every single day. Like, I really have to do that for myself. And I hate to again go back to podcasts, but like, really, I will pick one of my favorite, podcast episodes to listen to. I mentioned School of Greatness. I love like the Skinny Confidential. I love Hillary Kerr's podcast, Second Life. She interviews amazing women, female entrepreneurs. And I just feel like, as soon as I listen to a conversation about just someone who is, obviously finding success in what they're doing, and giving out tangible tips and advice, by the way, it gets me out of my own head. It's like, I don't know, it's like, it gets me sort of able to get out of that mode of maybe fear that you're feeling kind of stuck. And so I think podcasts are a great way. I guess the other thing I would say is, get out and have some quiet time, and go for a walk and clear your head type of thing. Because I think often the simplest things can sort of get us out of that rut. But I know exactly what you're saying. Like it's hard, it's finding those things that like work for you. I think the third thing I would say is movement, doing a Pilates class, going out for a run, like get the endorphins running. If you like music like I do, I love music, and I'll put on some great tunes, and I'll just like go for a quick run. It can be as simple as like running for 10 minutes or something like that. Like it doesn't have to be this, this big endeavor, but I think it can really help.
Yeah.
I love that. I really love how much you can tell as well that you live and breathe podcasts, which is like, it's no surprise that Monday Network has been born, because we're so similar in that sense as
Yeah.
well. Like I absolutely, like I think most of like, well, a lot of like my own self-development practice has been pushed from podcasts, just like those quiet days where you put on a podcast and something just clicks for you. I just love that, because obviously we're here talking on the podcast and the Birth of Monday Network.
Exactly. And I was just listening to your episode with Kirsty, and right, it's like I'm listening to my own co-founder, just like sharing her tips and her background, and I'm even learning something new there. So it's like, shows like yours, the self-development field is amazing. There's so many you can listen to, and just find something that might be a little bit refreshing for you. So
Yeah, exactly. There's always something to learn, because you don't always have those conversations as well, like when you're with people. But when you were speaking there as well, you can really hear like the power of consistency that has showed up in your own career, especially when you're saying like you're working full time, but you did it for a year and a half on the side. Like I can imagine that was hard. That takes a lot of persistence. And I keep hearing lately like this common theme of how sometimes you have to work on your own self-development, and that's going to reflect into your career, because sometimes you can bring your own stuff into your own career journey. So we were wondering if that has ever kind of happened to you, or how you approach therapy in regards to that. Because I did hear you speak on Kirsty's podcast about your own journey with therapy. And we love it when people open up about therapy, because it just normalizes more, and it helps people realize, oh, maybe I can reach out for therapy and get some help. So we would love to hear a little bit about your therapy journey and if that kind of work on your own inner world helped reflect into your own career.
Yeah, it absolutely does, 100%. I guess my experience with therapy is certainly a positive one, and it's been really life changing and such a support. I guess when I moved abroad 4.5 years ago, it was definitely a huge life transition. You know, I left everything that I knew in New York. I left my friends and family in the Northeast. I left my full time job, and I took that jump and I moved over here with my partner, not knowing anybody, not having a network, and having to really start from ground zero again, and really rebuilding everything up again. I had no idea if my blog and my Instagram would sort of translate over to here. I had no idea if my audience that I had built in New York would care that I was here
Mhm.
and continue following. Like there were so many question marks and so many unknowns. And I know a lot of women can probably relate to this. Change for me especially is like very uncomfortable. It's very scary. And so that alone was really a catalyst, I think, to like what I was going through emotionally, not having friends and a network and family here that I could just like call up and go grab a coffee and sort of vent. It was like I would wake up in the morning because of the time change. I'd have to wait, an additional 5-6 hours for my friends and family to wake up to even pick up the phone. So that was really hard. And so I would say it took probably like a year or two fully to really be implemented into London life, to really have that network, to have a few close friends that I could call on. And so for me, I literally Googled London therapist, central London therapist, because that is where I lived. And I started emailing around a little bit, and I ended up landing on a woman that I absolutely love, and that I speak with probably like every other week. And it's been like 3 years now. And so it's been such a support, such a resource. If nothing else, just a resource for self development. Like truly, she's just helped me work through so much. I guess in terms of like tangible tips that I feel like I've like really learned from therapy. One that always comes to mind is like she's really taught me to quote get comfortable with messy. I feel like as women, and I know we're going to talk about this too, like, and as a young mom, and all of us, whether you're a mom or you're not, we juggle so much. We do
Mm.
so much. We're working, we're handling things in the house, we're taking care of the kids, we're running our businesses. Like, not everything is going to get done in one day, right? Like, we're not going to get through our to-do list. We're not going to tick everything off and have this perfect box all the time. And so she's really helped me to sort of like sit with that and understand like, you're not going to possibly get to everything. Things are going to spill over into the next day. It's all about prioritizing. And I think I talk with so many of my female guests about this is like, that's what it's all about. It's like prioritizing, and that parlays into our work, our personal life, and everything. So I think that alone has been so helpful.
Mm.
I think the second tip that I would definitely share too is like, I guess going back to being an American living abroad and sort of having to rebuild and work on my relationships both across the pond and here. It's been really, really hard. You lose touch with people. Relationships take they take a hit when there's that much distance, and it's not just the physical distance, it's the time zone, it's everything. It can be really challenging. And so I think the other thing that's really helped in therapy is, and shout out to Brene Brown because she writes all about this, is like vulnerability. Like being vulnerable allows you to move closer in all of your relationships, whether that's with a friend, whether that's with your partner, whether that's with your mom and your dad. And this is something that I've personally struggled with, I think, my whole life. I wouldn't say that I'm an introvert, but I certainly do not, wear my heart and my feelings all the time on my sleeve. And so therapy has really been provoking for me and has really pushed me to try to be vulnerable, especially being that I live so far away from the most important people in my life. So that's something that I'm like constantly working on. And I think, it's so important to keep in mind, like
Mm.
being vulnerable, you're going to move closer to people. Otherwise, you're going to be two ships passing in the night, and it creates more distance.
As you will have just heard Em speaking about therapy and how impactful that has been on her own life, and she is now still seeing her therapist every week, even years later, because it brings that much value to her life. And if you've been wanting to start your own therapy journey, me and Abby do it still. We dip in and out of it all the time because it's so powerful for your own personal development. But if you've been feeling like you want to embark on your own therapy journey, but you haven't known where to turn to, who to go to, what's a good therapist, what type of therapy is right for me, where can I find an affordable option, we have the perfect place for you, and that is BetterHelp, who provide a professional, secure, private, safe online counselling service from the comfort of your own home, where they connect you with thousands of licensed counsellors that will work specifically around you and whatever your current needs are.
Yes, there are so many incredible benefits to BetterHelp, but one thing they really do prioritize is making sure that you are matched with the right therapist for you. So you will have heard Em say there in the episode how she's created this really good connection with her therapist and been seeing her for years. That is kind of bond that you need in order to really reach that vulnerability within your therapy. So they prioritize that, make sure that whatever your needs are, they are met. So if you're actually matched with a therapist and you think, this isn't the right one for me, or I want to prioritize on a different part of my mental health, you can change for free until you're happy.
Yeah, it's so important that you find a therapist that you really connect to so that you can really open up and get the most out of the experience. But another great benefit of BetterHelp is that it's significantly more affordable than traditional face-to-face therapy. And they are very kindly giving our listeners a 10% discount off your entire first month of online therapy with BetterHelp. So that will take the cost to around £160 a month, which compared to face-to-face therapy, that is a really much more affordable price point. And the quality is just as high and the experience is just as good just because it's online. And if you are in a specific financial situation and you require financial aid, you can get an additional discount on top of that, depending on your circumstances.
So if you would like to access that discount, just head to betterhelp.com/findingyourfeet and the discount will automatically be applied. We will leave that in the show notes so you can begin your own therapy journey.
So just head to betterhelp.com/findingyourfeet. But that's all for now. Let's get back on with the episode with Em. Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful answers. Thank you for sharing those, because, you know, it's not always easy to answer that question either, like what's the most important things you've learned from therapy, because that in itself is a vulnerable question. But I feel like
exactly.
yeah.
I'm like provoked right now. I'm like getting emotional, right?
No, but it's amazing. It's really nice that you can share that with our listeners today, and it was very, very powerful advice that will really help people. But you were saying about how one of the things you learned was being comfortable with things being messy and not getting to everything all the time and not everything being perfect. We actually have a lot of women who are mothers that listen to the show, and obviously you've got your little son, and, you know, as well as being a mum, you're a business owner, you're a content creator, you're a podcaster. There's so many things that you're doing there and you've got like to manage. So we always get questions about from women that are mothers about how to deal with sort of that mum guilt that you get when you feel like, you know, you need to take that time for yourself because you can't completely run yourself into the ground, otherwise, you know, you're not going to be able to be the best for your family and all these things. And just that guilt of like, oh, taking that time for yourself, even if it is just an hour, like a time out of bath or something just for you, how to manage that guilt between feeling like, oh no, I need to be with my child all the time, I need to be doing the mom things, versus taking time for yourself. Have you got any advice for those kind of women that really struggle with that?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I feel like in a way you sort of just said it, in that like we run ourselves into the ground, right? Like, and I think like when you become a mom, like the mom guilt is so real. It really is. I think it 100% like comes with the territory. I think for me, it's as simple as understanding, really knowing myself. I know that like if I don't recharge my batteries, I am not going to be the best like mom that I can be. I'm not going to have my sanity. I'm going to be short on patience. I'm going to get frustrated. So for me, it's sort of a non-negotiable, and it's really hard. I don't have family here. I do have help in other ways. And I have my husband who works long hours. He goes in very, very early. So he's not really around in the morning to help with my son. But he is home at a reasonable hour. So I think it's finding whatever works for you and your situation, and you and your partner, and whoever you have to help support you. Remind yourself it's not all on you. That's first and foremost. Like, you know, you're not alone, you know, whether you have family around or a partner or a friend. Like, You need to find those pockets for you, because I think it's just going to keep your sanity. And so some days it's as simple as like when my husband gets home and like maybe I literally haven't showered for the whole day because I've been on child watch. Like when he gets home, I go and do what I need to do. Like I get my workout in, or I do another hour of work, or I literally go out for a walk and I get some air. Like I I really make sure that I find that time for myself, because like I said, otherwise I'm emotionally taxed. It is a lot. And any mom that is listening, no matter what stage they're at, I'm personally immersed in toddler life right now. My son is almost 2, and I can say I am short on patience. I'm short on patience every single day. My mornings are not what they were. And sometimes I'm like mourning my past life of like having a coffee and like reading my stoicism book in the morning and having like that moment. But I think we definitely do adapt, and we are very flexible, but try not to let the mom guilt get the best of you, because we will be better off for it by just finding those quiet moments.
Yeah, that's such amazing advice. I really feel like anybody listening that is struggling with mum guilt can really step forward with that. And just staying on the topic of being a mum, we do sometimes get this common question of people saying they're maybe like they're taking a new road in their life and they're coming kind of maybe back to their self-development, and they say, since being a mum, I actually felt like I lost that sense of identity. I lost who I was. I lost like what I enjoyed.
Mhm.
Did you ever struggle with this, or did you know? I know you just mentioned there about that kind of mourning of your past life. Did you ever
Yeah.
struggle with losing your sense of identity, or like the change in the hobbies? Like, how did you adapt around that?
Yeah, I think like especially in the first year of having a new baby, like absolutely. You're like, who am I? Like, you're so immersed in the feeding and the schedules and the sleep, and it really is all consuming. I think for me, when I was pregnant, I was very adamant about making sure that I remained like myself in its most like simplest form. Um, but I knew that was like a little bit naive. I think when we become moms, like we do become a bit of a different version of ourselves, and
Mhm.
that's totally okay. But I would say like if there were things that you were doing before you had a child, or things that you loved and you find that you're getting too bogged down, like try to carve out the time. I know it's kind of like simple advice, but I know even for me, like I mentioned this earlier in the episode, like I really love music. And sometimes like days or like weeks will go by where I just haven't like turned on music while I was like cooking or like getting ready or having a shower or whatever. Well, I really love listening to podcasts while I take a shower. But sometimes like I just forget, like I love music so much. I need to be like incorporating that more into my daily routine or whatever, and it's just as simple as that, like making those small tweaks and changes. So I would say like try not to lose yourself in it too much, and I think it's going back to like prioritizing time and finding the time to do those things that you used to love. But I think making sure that you can get back to that will really help to like make sure that you still feel like you, because I think it's so important. I would say after the first year, it feels easier to get back to that place, because in many ways things with the child will get easier. They become a little bit more independent in some ways, and of course, it also changes and gets harder in some ways. So it's always a change. I feel like as mothers, we're like in this constant state of change, and so it's not easy. I'm still finding the balance, and I would not say that I am an expert in any way. I just try to hone in on like what works for me. But I think the other thing that I think is super important, and I need to do a better job of this myself, is like go out with your girlfriends, like go out during the week. Even if you can sneak out for like a quick glass of wine or two, it can be as simple as that. Like when your partner gets home, or like have the grandparents come around, like do not feel bad about it. Get them over and like go out for that drink. I just think like we need those moments with our girlfriends because it is so cathartic, and we find that like that community with each other, that relatability, and I think it really helps to keep our sanity. So I know like my time with my girlfriends are so important, and I think trying to find the time to do that. And I know we're all busy, but like you will be better off for it.
Mm.
Yeah, amazing tips. It sounds like it's as well just about like from what you said, just finding those little micro moments for you, and being okay with that not being a perfect routine, but just squeezing little things in where you can, so you can still feel like you. And obviously, being a mum is like one of the biggest things that if like you choose to become one, that you'll do in your life. Like, it's amazing. So I think if anyone's listening now that is a mum, like you're doing one of the most wonderful things in the world. So
Yeah. No, but you're exactly right. I mean, you just said it, like micro moments is
mm,
definitely the word. I think that, just as women, again, whether you're a mom or not, it's like it's about those micro moments of like doing what you love. Like I think
mm,
that's just gonna change everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and help refuel you. Uh,
Sorry,
also,
just before we do move on from like family life and children, I just feel really called to ask you this question. So obviously,
Yeah.
you're like happily married. How long have you been with your partner? Sorry.
Yeah, so September 2017. So we're going on, oh my God, we're going on 5 years of marriage. I
5 years.
literally can't even. It's flown by. It's flown by. I've been with him a very long time. We've been together for like almost 8, 9 years. So we met in New York, and yeah, so I guess we've been married for 4 or 5. It's
Yeah.
actually a little sad that I can't actually tell you.
No, but I just wanted to ask for all our lovely listeners, what is maybe like your best piece of relationship advice? Because obviously 8, 9 years, that's a long time. Or is there anything that
Yeah.
you've like implemented into your relationship which has really helped with the growth of it? Putting you on the spot,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, no, you're fine. That's a really good question. Um, I'm gonna go therapy on you again,
Mhm.
but I think being very open and telling your partner how something is making you feeling can really like change. Say you get in an argument or there's a conflict or something. It's a really simple small tweak, and I'm working on it myself. But I think like if you can articulate how your partner is making you feel around something rather than sort of coming at them with something and being combative, or I mean, we all do it, we all bicker and we sort of like get into things, but I think if we can bring it back to like, I am made feel this type of way because of like X, Y, and Z. And of course, if we can do it in a calm way, which when you're in the heat of the moment does not always work, I think can like really change sort of the way that you conflict with each other, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think. I feel like there's definitely more things.
No, that's definitely good advice
yeah.
for sure. When you're in the heat of the moment, it's not
um,
always straightforward, but I think definitely, yeah, like saying, this is how this is making me feel. It's that vulnerability again, isn't it? Like, this is how it's making me
yeah.
feel.
Yeah, and I think it comes in a much, like, softer way because, like, don't get
Mm.
me wrong, my partner drives me actually insane sometimes where I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, and I just, like, wanna come at him and be like, X, Y, and Z, and so it's, like, bringing it back down in that, like, softer way, I think manages things, like, a bit better, um, and I think that's something that, like, we're constantly working on as well.
Mm. Yeah, I guess it's like responding rather than reacting, and then you can get a
Mm.
better outcome of situation and come to resolution quicker, which is obviously what you want. You don't really like sitting on things in your relationship. But thank you for sharing that. We put you on the spot with
Yeah, of
that
course.
question, but
No, you're fine. Oh my gosh,
um,
no, I hope it was helpful.
no, yeah, it was really
Definitely.
good advice. Thank you. So just quickly on Monday Network. So our listeners know what it is. I mean, if they haven't, we can give them like a brief little. You can give them the brief little intro
Yeah.
into it. But we've
Yeah.
spoken about it quite a lot on our episodes recently. But obviously, we heard from Kirsty in our interview with her, which is the other co-founder, what sort of was inspiring her to create it, and you obviously both joined together to do it. So we'd love to hear what inspired you to start it, and do you think that your like big move, like your move from New York to London, and losing that sense of community and having to build that up, was that something that inspired like Monday Networks? I feel like that is really bringing that community element to podcasts, which as you know as a podcaster as well, we're lucky we're doing it together, me and Abby, but I always think if I was doing this on my own, I don't know if I would have carried on this long. Like
Mm.
it's not easy. So I feel
Yeah.
like Monday Network's really bringing that community that podcasters need. So yeah, I'd love to know what inspired you
Yeah.
to create it. And all that.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, I want to thank you ladies because you've been such cheerleaders for
Oh.
Monday Network, and we can't thank you enough. And we're so thrilled to have a show like yours on the network. I think you really are sort of synonymous with everything that we really stand for. Monday, just for your listeners, Monday Network is a collective of podcasts that are all geared towards a woman's journey to self-growth and self-development. So sort of all of the things that you guys chat about all the time. And, we're really bringing in other angles of like career, entrepreneurship, self-care, and holistic health and wellness, like just all the things that help to make women better. And so our shows are of value. You're going to leave with a tangible tip, a piece of advice, or a takeaway that will just give you a pep in your step. Like what we were kind of talking about further is like, for me personally, like that's what podcasts are like all about. Like I want to listen to something and I want to get motivated. I want to get inspired. And so Kirsty and I both really joined in on that premise and thought like, there's such strength in a collective. There's such strength in numbers and bringing women together. And right, as you were saying, as creators, as podcasters, you can feel really siloed and really sort of alone in so many ways. Often you're like, is anybody listening like out there? And so I think Monday was a very natural fruition of all the things Kirsty and I were sort of starting to talk about with each other. And so, right, we're creating this collective. We're so thrilled about it, and we can't wait to continue growing it and bringing it to life. I guess to answer your other question around like my move abroad, it absolutely helped to sort of inspire me to wanting and craving that like community. I think, as Instagram can be kind of a tough grime. I think we can all have our frustrations with it, but I think there's so many positives and amazing things that have come out of it where you've been able to stay really connected and have this community and audience with you. And it changes, it definitely changes and evolves. I know it has for me. I've definitely gone through a lot of changes from when I had my blog, The Lipstick Fever, to now where I actually don't really focus as much on fashion content anymore. For example, like I really focus in on like beauty, skincare, self-care. And then I'm a podcaster, I'm a mom. So it's sort of like I've evolved into something else, and your community and your audience absolutely changes. Some people stay, some people go. But I think it's been such an amazing tool and an amazing community to have when you are far away from like your close friends and family, and you create this other new little family. And so I think Monday is a new family that we're really excited to just sort of, like I said, like bring to life, and something we are so thrilled to start and have you ladies a part of.
Oh.
Yeah, we're so happy to be a part of it. We're like, yeah, we think it's just such an amazing idea, and it really does solve that problem for so many podcasters out there who are just, like you said, just feel kind of alone in creating their content. And the power of people coming together and collaborating is huge. And I think sometimes as well, like women don't tend to collaborate as much with other women, not just, I think it's just innate how we just are, like we're just a bit like, I don't know, being protective and but actually we're stronger together. So yeah, it's amazing, and we're really excited for like where the future of Monday is going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like as women, it's just about, I hate to be cliche, but like finding your tribe,
Yeah.
like finding it's as simple as like finding the content that you really gravitate towards, finding those shows that, you really are loving listening to. Monday may not be for everybody, but it is going to be for, that woman that is looking for that self-development tip, or looking for like a little pep in their step. So I think it's just like all about figuring out like what works for you as a listener, and as like sort of someone who is taking in content, which we all are.
Yeah
Amazing. You can really feel like even though like it's just started the Monday Network, you can already feel that community coming together. Like it's amazing. I love it. I was really excited. But you just said there about how you've been leaning more towards kind of like skincare, beauty blogging rather than your fashion. Do you have like any wellness tips or any self-care rituals? Because I know I always see you put stuff on your Instagram and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get some of these products. They always look amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
um,
No, thank you. I mean, so I will say my self-care is definitely heavy on the sort of beauty side of things and skincare specifically. For a few reasons. I think like one, it's a really quick thing that you can do, whether you have a child or not in the morning. I love to grab these. I have you guys seen them? They look like lollipops. They are like lymphatic drainage, like cooling
mm,
spears
Oh
from
yeah,
yeah.
cotton podcast.
Rose
Yeah.
Inc. They're like all over Instagram right now. Rosie Huntington Whiteley launched a beauty brand and it's makeup and it's skincare. It's really amazing, beautiful products. And so these are like these cooling spheres and I keep them in my fridge. And it's just amazing. You know, when you wake up
Mm,
in the morning and you are just like, I can't even open my eyes yet. I'm puffy. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening? That is me every single morning. So I like to use those and I'll just do them really quick. And then Parker usually likes to try to play with them and they're made of glass. So we try to keep them away from him. I love like an eye patch, really easy again, throw them on in the morning, I'll leave them on for an hour, like go about your business and you're like good to go. Another one I love and I rave about all the time, aromatherapy is this like beautiful essential oils brand. And they have a bath and shower gel that like literally you can create a little spa experience in your shower for yourself. Like if you put it on, like you cup it in like dry, like just in your hands, and you sort of like slather like your body in it, you kind of inhale the essential oils. It creates for a really like lovely experience. I know it sounds a little woo woo, but it's really nice and just it just makes your shower feel like a little spa for a minute.
mm,
um and then of course like face masks. I love face masks. Wander Beauty makes an amazing one. Dr. Jart, they have just like the best ones. I'm sure you guys have seen them. They're also all over Instagram. They're like the blue rubber cryo mask. It's hyaluronic acid, which is my favorite skincare ingredient of all time because it plumps your skin and you retain water. It's just amazing for your skin. So I would say those are sort of like my top picks that I rotate
Yeah,
in.
yeah. No,
mm,
I really want to try those. The things you were talking about,
Wonder.
the glass like
Yeah.
thing, because like there's so many of these new things out now about like all these different tools you can use on your face to help with like puffiness and everything. And because you mentioned that you love the Skinny Confidential podcast ever since, because we obviously got to meet you in person. We went out for lunch, and also for everyone listening, she has the most glowing skin you have
Yeah.
ever seen in your
Oh
life.
man,
So
guys.
take her tips seriously because she knows what she's talking about. But
You are kind.
yeah, but yeah, you mentioned there about the Skinny Confidential, how much you love that podcast. So I've been aware of it for ages, but I've gone like deep into listening to it for the last 2 weeks. I've like been
Yeah.
binging so many episodes. It's amazing. And she's obviously got her ice roller. And I'm like, I need to invest in some of these like cooling depuffing tools. So
Yes,
yeah, I
yes.
really want to try them.
I think everyone needs like a skincare fridge now because need to leave all these things in your fridge
Yeah.
because they're going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
tough and all these things.
I
So,
know. Yeah.
yeah, no, she is amazing and her show is amazing. She has like the best guests from like literally any vertical you could think of. She's covered and
Mm.
they have like the best experts. So, it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. My new favorite podcast. Um, well, you've shared so many amazing bits of advice. We've covered off so much stuff today, and we're really thankful for you to come on. But just your one final little bit of advice to leave the listeners with who are deciding about whether they should make this big move. Maybe they've had an opportunity come up to move to another country, or maybe even to move to a different part of the country they're in, because that in itself can be, very daunting, or to swap
Mhm.
careers or anything. Just they're coming up with this opportunity to make a big move. So what would you give
Mhm.
them of someone who's done that and really thrived from it and created like so much amazing stuff out of it? What's your best little bit of advice for somebody that's maybe a bit scared to do it?
Yeah, I love it. My advice is really simple, but and maybe obvious, but it's being proactive and like doing your research. So whether you're trying to move to a new city or whether you're trying to make a career transition, find people that are doing those things and connect with them. Get a coffee, pick their brain. I feel like the more people that we talk to, in a way, people within our network, friends and family, anyone you speak with can really be that like guiding light for you. And I feel like you will be pulled in a certain direction after just simply talking to people. we really like can learn and grow so much from people. And I think that's the first thing that I did when I was moving abroad. I went on LinkedIn, I started messaging people, I started to set up coffee meetings, I started to message girls on Instagram. It was like I just wanted to learn as much as I possibly could so I can understand like what direction should I go in? Like, should I pursue my blog full time? Should I look for something else? So I would just say like be really proactive in your life, listen to podcasts, get motivated, learn from other people, and you'll be able to like really feel that direction you're being pulled in.
Yeah.
Such amazing advice.
Yeah.
Really, really practical.
Yeah, you can learn so much from just talking to other people. So thank you so much, Em, for coming on. Where can everybody find you? Your social medias, your podcast, everything like that. We're going to link it all in the show notes.
Yeah, of course. And thank you, ladies, so much. This was such a fun chat. So I am on Instagram at mroberts.m. And then my podcast is just The Big Move. And you can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major platforms. So yeah, come and check us out. And then Monday Network is on Instagram too. We're just Monday_network. So we'd love to connect with you.
Yeah. Perfect. We'll put all the links for that in the show notes so everyone can come and find you. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been so lovely to chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. This was like such a great chat.
Really hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as we did. I feel like we covered off a lot of ground in quite a short space of time on such a huge variety of topics. So hope you got a lot of practical tips to take away, and make sure that you do go and connect with Em on Instagram, and do check out her podcast if you have been, thinking you need that little push to make the big move and you just want some general inspiration or just some beauty advice. She's like the master of knowledge on skincare and products and everything. So go and check her out. We've left all the links in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely go check her out, and watch this space for what's to come with Monday Network, because her fiery boss energy is what she's really bringing into the network along with Kirsty. So we can't wait to see that flourish and grow alongside them. But thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Bye.